The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and I am here at the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're coming to you live this morning for the next 2 hours. Live. How exciting is that? We've got a great show planned for you and we hope that this entire 2 hours will be interactive because honestly, that's what's more fun for us. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us, have your thoughts heard, have your questions answered. And while she shows you some of these different ways that you can connect with us, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a lot of different things to do. I know somebody had written in last week and said, what are the resources on your website? Well, there's a lot really on that page. There's a lot of, if you click around, there's a lot of things that are interactive on that page. We have a blog. We have ways that you can search the Ask Dr. Doreen questions by topic. But the truth is that there's a computer screen there. And if you click on the little triangle, the live show will start playing or the most recently recorded live show. And up in the upper left-hand corner of that is a memo tab. You can get to the 100 most recent shows right there from that tab if you don't want to go to YouTube or any of our other aggregating sites. To the side of all that is something called the live feature. And it's a series of white boxes. If you'll put your cursor in the box that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. You don't have to log in. You don't have to prove that you're a human being. So sometimes we get some interesting things there because we don't force you to prove it. But we don't ask for your name. There's no asking for a credit card because it's completely free and completely anonymous. And I really like that about that feature because if you're on Facebook and you put your question, then everybody knows what question you asked. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's not. So you can ask your question completely anonymously on that live feature and totally for free. You just hit enter and it shows up here on my screen. And that way I can be having a conversation with you. Even better, you can be having a conversation with the experts that we have on the show. So all of that is there and available to you, whatever way you prefer to communicate. We think that we've got the market cornered on different ways, but if you see that there is a site or a way that you could be communicating with us that we don't know about, please inform us. And as always, you can also email me directly at s.penrod, P-E-N-R-O-D, at autism-live.com. Now, having said all that, in just a second, we've got Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with you and with me and with all of us. She's going to be answering your questions in just a minute live on the show, and you can be writing in about that. Then a little bit later on in the hour, we have the fabulous Nancy Alspaugh Jackson joining me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We've got some wonderful guests who are going to talk with us about some very exciting things. We've got a mom and a son who the son is a stand-up comedian. He's on the spectrum and he's a stand-up comedian, and mom has written an article about that. So we've asked them both to come and talk about that. And then we've got an autism mom who has started a business to help support other autism moms, so that if you've got something that you want to do, you want to organize your life, you're just having a problem making the whole thing work, because who isn't? She's sort of an expert at these kinds of things and can help you to organize your life so that you can get things back to clicking right along, but in autism land. So that will be a very exciting thing. Again, that's in the second hour during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. But right now, it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here with us live in the studio. And for those of you who don't know,
Good morning.
Good morning. She's amazing. She is an expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism. And she's been working in this field for 40 years. 40.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't look like it, but it's the truth. And I always say there's a painting aging under a bed somewhere for you because, my goodness. But in any case, I think it's being around the kids that's kept you youthful and looking young.
You.
And she has worked with a wide variety of kids, but also with very young infants up through teenagers, adults, and even senior citizens on the autism spectrum. She is the founder of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, the founder of Autism Care and Treatment Today. She's amazing and here with us during this hour to answer your questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure being here.
We always do like to say, though, that even though you are this amazing expert, there is no expert in this particular format that could give individual specific advice. So we want everybody to know, that's sort of the playing field that we have, because if you don't have the opportunity to actually interact with the person, you really can't give individual specific advice. So we're not even attempting to do that, but you can write in your questions, be as specific as possible, and what a wonderful opportunity to have this moment to pick one of the most brilliant brains in the field of autism and say, what do you know about this? It's always enlightening for us.
It's always fun.
And I think it also saves you a lot of time and money because it's sort of like a decision tree, and she'll shed some light for you, and then you'll be able to make decisions on your decision tree and know what to do next.
Absolutely. And it's the fastest hour of my week. Which is amazing, right?
It does go
we
fast.
Get into discussion and it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah,
it's
well,
incredible.
I enjoy this hour. I look forward
It's
to
a lot
this
of fun.
hour.
Thank you so much.
And we do have to say that next week, it's Wednesday, and it is the 4th of July. So we will not be here next week, and I do want it. So you have to get enough to squeeze in this week to last you 2 more weeks. All right, I'm going to jump right in here. First question. Hello, my daughter has APD and ASD. I don't even know that I know what APD is.
Auditory processing disorder.
Oh, okay, that makes total sense. She's 6 and typically very well behaved with deficits in self-control. This summer has been a roller coaster of behaviors. Can we all give each other a hug? From defiant and saying, I don't care, to everything to hiding from therapists and refusing to do anything with them. What can we do? What are we not doing? She does have a new schedule with camp, but she will have a great day at camp and come home and be really difficult all the way up to bedtime. Please help. I know you will have great suggestions, and I will do them. Isn't that lovely?
That is very lovely. And it's hard to give suggestions because we just don't know enough, but it's very fixable. Let's just start there and say that all behavior, you just have to remember, has a function, right? And so she's not trying to be difficult. She's just trying to probably getting attention, getting her way, gaining access to things by doing these behaviors and so on. So really what you need is, and it sounds like you have therapists, so you really need a BCBA or someone who is kind of trained in this field to be able to come to the house and do a series of functional analyses, right? So basically that means that this person would take every behavior that you find challenging and identify what the purpose is, what is the function, why is she actually doing these behaviors. So being difficult could be anything from screaming, running away, having tantrums, being defiant, hiding, all of those things. And each behavior, believe it or not, will have a different function. Hiding from therapists is probably actually a game. Like, she's probably just having fun doing it. And so, each of those will have a different intervention. When you let's say if you want to gain access to something, so you are, pushy and you push your way through and you gain access to it, the treatment for it is to not allow the individual to have access. If you refuse to do things like being defiant, the treatment for it is to actually reduce the steps and model and prompt her to actually get through it and get reinforcers. Like, so each of these behaviors will have a different function. So I think what would be helpful is if you wrote in and perhaps listed each of the individual behaviors that you find challenging, and then we can try to go through them and help you one by one, because they're all going to have different types of interventions. And really what it sounds like is that she's very, very capable of doing the right thing, because A, she's doing it in camp, but it sounds like she's just sort of refusing to do all these things. And that's just because our kids are pretty clever, and they realize that if they tantrum, they generally get their way. If they hide or are defiant, no one really forces them to go the other direction. So it's a lot easier, and it gets a lot more attention.
Can the paranoid puss in me add one more thing to that?
Of course.
That while you're having the BCBA look at what's happening at home, I would like for somebody to go to camp with her to just have eyes on
100%.
what's happening at camp.
100%, because the same kind of stuff could be happening at camp and no one's telling you.
And there's so many things that happen in a day.
Yes.
And I have learned from you and from all the people here that when a new schedule happens and we see a change in behavior, that it's sort of like Sherlock Holmes time.
Totally
It's
true.
like, let's look and see all the different components, and often it's, for the parents, it's the last thing that we think it could be. And, she might be loving camp, and camp might be going really well, but there might be one thing that's happening at camp that she's modulating because she likes camp, but when she comes home, she's got to blow off that steam.
Yes,
and is
sure.
unhappy and doesn't know how to say, I don't like this one part of camp, and doesn't have the language or the ability to process that one thing could be changed, and then camp would be so much more. So I say look at the whole thing.
Absolutely. And Shannon has a really good point. I mean, it could be just as simple as the noise level in camp, because she also has APD. So it's kind of like you really do need to look at her overall, what is going on, to find the real causes.
Yeah.
No question.
And then it's amazing how once you find what the one thing is, then that dictates what the intervention is, and then it gets better.
Absolutely.
But I do think as parents, sometimes it feels like, oh, everything was going so well and now everything isn't.
Oh, yeah.
And like what, I love this parent saying, tell me whatever it is to do and I'll do it. But I
Yes.
also feel and hear the desperation.
Yes.
I always go back to the tantrum that my son would have in the same store every single time. And I kept trying to figure it out. It wasn't until a card therapist came and watched and said, oh, there's a change in the floor. And that's right where he has the tantrum.
Right.
And then we realized that he'd been having tantrums in all these other places where there was a change in the floor that I had not been able to put together. And then the minute that Card knew that, Card put together a thing. And within like 3 weeks, my son, the rest of his life, did not have a problem with that.
It's amazing.
So I really encourage you, put some other eyes on it. Find out what it is, and then you'll know what to do next.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. That it always makes sense to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, because you never know.
You don't know. You don't know what's going on.
I thought it was the octopus in the store.
Right.
Because we would go in the store, and he would always ask to look at the octopus, and we would go over and look at the octopus, and then I would give him a countdown, and we'd leave from the octopus, and I was like, it's that octopus. Something about that octopus is setting him off, right? But it wasn't. It just so happened that we walked 10 feet away from the octopus, and the floor changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was tricky that way, but it wasn't the octopus, and the therapist could see that.
Amazing.
In any case, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with another question about summer, because it's summer, a lot of us find ourselves in this position of, either what I'm doing, it's changed things up, and now things are a little gummy and wonky, or some of you are in the position of, I don't know what to do because it's summer. So we're gonna address that. And then we got some things that we're going to do tomorrow as well on that. But stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of June, I figured we'd do some cool things that are kind of like summer camp activities. So the activity we're doing this month is making a shoebox guitar. The materials you'll be needing are an old shoebox, a paper towel roll, a pencil, a stencil, rubber bands, a crayon, and an X-Acto blade, which only the adults will be using. So first first things first, I have a shoebox and I painted it just so it's a little bit more interesting. This is an opportunity for your kids to decorate however they choose. They can keep it simple or do some stripes with paint, or you can always use, stickers or tape instead of paint to decorate it. All right, now that I have this, I'm gonna take my stencil, place it on top of the shoebox, and I'm gonna draw a circle somewhere in the center, okay? So now that I have that, I'm gonna take my X-Acto blade, which is why this is for the adults, and cut out the circle. Next, we're gonna cut out a smaller circle at the top of our shoebox guitar. The reason we're going to do this is so that we have a place to insert our paper towel roll, aka the stem of the guitar. And I'm gonna grab my paper towel roll and I'm gonna trace the outside of this so I can cut a hole on the top of this too to stick this in so it just looks a lot more realistic. It won't be usable, but it'll look pretty cool. Now that it's been traced, now I'm gonna cut it out with the X-Acto blade. And again, this is something that only the adults should be doing. Now that I have both of the holes cut in this, I'm gonna take my guitar strings and place them on. As you can see, it's missing one thing. It's stem, so now I'm gonna put this in the hole we just cut out. All right, the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my crayon and put this in. And then after that, your guitar is totally done and you're ready to rock out with your kids. And if you're really cool, you'll make another one so you and your child can play together while doing socio-dramatic play, or work on imitation skills where you play a pattern on here and then they try to repeat it. I hope you and your child had lots of fun making this. And until next time, rock on.
Can you see me flying by your side?
This is Logan Shepard. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepard is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepard now.
All I really want to say is, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream that one day I can just inspire people and never give up, because that's what I want to do in life, because if I can succeed, they can succeed, and I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, and she's answering your questions in real time. We promised that we were going to come back and talk a little bit about summer with this very specific question. Any ideas for helping my 11-year-old son to fill his summer days? He has autism and ADHD, but the ADHD is more severe. He is obsessed with technology and figures out ways to get around parent controls and watches inappropriate videos and rap songs. Then uses bad language around the neighborhood kids. I think he's trying to be cool. And no one plays with him. I work all day and mom watches him, but lets him do whatever he wants, which is usually TV or tablet. It's not healthy. How do I get him to do other things when he doesn't have any friends and I can't afford to send him to camp? He likes jumping, writing songs, and riding his bike, but can't do those things for 9 hours. Thanks for any ideas. I'm desperate.
Yeah, that is so tough. It's hard. I wonder if there are, the first thing, I was going to say we need to figure out a way to schedule his entire day, right? From start to finish. So I don't know where you are, but if you are in a state that has a mandate for treatment and he has both ADHD and autism, you should be able to get ABA. You should be able to get therapy. And as part of, so the ABA, essentially you would either at home or at the center, you would drop him off and all day long he would be learning things and he wouldn't even have a moment of time open. He would also have play. During that, we do a lot of very cool events with our kids. We do field trips, all kinds of educational stuff, but it's very one-to-one focused, and we do full programs all day long and weekends during the summer, all year round, actually. And we have a lot of kids who are his age, and he would also learn to socialize. We would teach him how to play with other kids, how to not do the inappropriate behavior, how to engage himself with activities. So, and it's all insurance covered.
Yeah.
So what I would, and we're talking Medicaid as well. So wherever you are, I think that's what you spend your energy on right now, is figuring out how to get him services through professionals as opposed to trying to do it yourself, because you know, you're working, you're busy, and mom is probably busy, and it's very hard to engage an ADHD and ASD child every single day. So, but when you have a team of people working with him, it's not that hard.
Yeah, and I tomorrow on the show, I'm going to reprise what we did last summer, which is the 5 steps to avoid summer slide. As a former teacher, there's a very real thing that we refer to as summer slide, that this is for all kids, neurotypical and otherwise, that they get into the summer, and if their brains aren't fed, they will lose. The schools accept that kids will lose 20% of what they learned in the last year, which is horrifying, right?
That's amazing.
Absolutely horrifying. But for those of us who have kids that sometimes are catching up, there's a little bit of a benefit for us, because if the other kids are going to lose 20%, and if our kids gain 40%, we're gaining on them.
We're getting closer.
Right. So we did a series of blogs, and I've got 5 tips for things that you can be doing in the hours that you're not doing ABA therapy to prevent that summer slide. They're things that are really cost effective and sometimes free with kids of all different ages. So I'm going to hit those all again tomorrow. Tune in for that, because the thing is that most of us, the cost of camp, I don't know if you have seen, I feel for this man, the cost of camp now is so ridiculously high.
It's crazy, yeah.
I mean, $1,600 for a week, and they only can be there from 9 to 2.
Yeah.
And you go,
I know.
Like, that's just like, I don't know who can afford that. But there are lots of different things that you can do. Nancy and I did a little segment on it before. I brought her in a visual schedule that I had made for Jem a couple of years ago when he was probably about 11, because I needed him to have more decision making in what he was going to do and how he was going to structure his time.
Right.
And it's all these Velcro things that he can pull off in blocks that are in colors and decide which order he was going to, when he's going to go to the pool, but when he's going to work on, his handwriting, which was one of the things that we were working on.
Absolutely.
So there's all kinds of ideas, and we're going to hit that tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
But if you can get a full ABA program, that's
the best thing.
That's the thing. And then my stuff is just stuff that fits in around that.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it's just such a big endeavor. I know it is such a huge thing. I mean, this is what I do for my living, and I remember when I was trying to set up a program for Sonny, because he was learning 2 languages at the same time, so he was slow in his verbals, and I was a little worried, and he was 2. And it literally lasted 6 months, and then he wouldn't stop talking in both languages. I was like, what a mistake. But basically, it was very hard setting it up, because you're busy. You have other children, or your life and work and so on and so forth. It's really hard to set it up. So what I think the best, I mean, you're very blessed that you are now in this day and age, because I wouldn't have this solution 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Yeah. But now the issue is that, and here's the way to look at it, why do we send our kids to summer camp? I mean, aside from the fact that we need a break, but we send them to summer camp with the hopes that they will improve in one particular area, which is social behavior, right? Yeah. And guess what? Social behavior is the #1 deficit of autism. So it is fully insurance covered. Yeah. It is the #1 thing we're trying to teach our kids is improvements in social behavior. So getting an ABA program is what you need. This is the solution, absolutely, because he will have a blast. He will have so much fun. Our centers are really fun. Like, they do all kinds of cool activities together as well, but every child has their own set of goals, and we push forward with those goals continuously.
Yes, exhaust every possible resource to make sure. I'm hearing from a lot of parents that they say, well, my insurance doesn't cover ABA. And the problem with that is that it's that old thing of never take a no from somebody who wasn't authorized to give you a yes. Because if you call your insurance company and you get the person who just answers the phone and you say, do you cover ABA, 9 times out of 10 they're still saying no.
Which is crazy.
Because, well, I don't think insurance companies are spending a lot of money to inform those people, because it costs them money if they get.
Of course.
So, you know, you really got to be a little bit of a detective. What I love about CARD, and I'm just going to brag on you for a while, is that if you go on the centerforautism.com and you go to the locations tab and you see that there is an office close by, you don't then want to call that office. You want to call that 1-800 number or start the parent portal that's on the website, and they will pursue your insurance. To see if and they know how to do it. They know what questions to ask.
I mean, and it's pretty expensive for us to have that department that checks benefits, because it's a whole team of people, but we do it because of the fact that it's not clear to everyone yet that they have coverage. So all you have to do is just what Shannon said. The step is to go on our website, centerforautism.com, and then look up locations, find a location that's hopefully close to you, and then call the 800 number or just start the application process on the parent portal for enrollment. And once you're in there, or when you call our admissions department, the 800 number, you just give them your ID card, and they will, your insurance ID, and they will do all of the rest for you. Now, if your coverage is not present, they'll also tell you how to try to go to use your Medicaid benefits. If that doesn't exist as well, in some states it hasn't rolled out yet, then we will try to help you through another department, which is kind of we give you guidance. We can't provide you with the actual therapist, but we can definitely give you more guidance.
There we go. Okay, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we've got a question that came in on Facebook about a 15-year-old who has severe self-injurious behavior.
Okay.
So stick with us. We're going to be back with that just after these messages. Parent to parent, one of the most frightening things there is when your child wanders away or elopes. This is when they leave an area without permission. And we know, science has shown that over 50% of children on the autism spectrum will engage in this kind of behavior. But we don't have to just accept it as fact. There are things that we can do to teach our children how to appropriately ask when they want to go someplace. But before we can teach, we have to know why they're doing it. Are they wandering away to go to something, or are they wandering away to escape something? Really important that we know that. And once we do know that, then we can put in place these really effective teaching strategies. I want to remind you, though, that if your child is engaging in this kind of behavior, it's really important to work with an expert. Get professional help. They'll be able to effectively figure out why your child is doing it and put an intervention in place that's effective. And when you stop and think about it, there's nothing more important than keeping our children safe. You might be asking yourself, a BIP, what on earth is that?
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a big one. Yes.
Autism,
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them.
Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We've got a bunch of questions coming in. I really want to get to this one though. Jenny has written it on Facebook and said, my son is 15 years old and he's a child that has severe self-injury to the point that it looks like he goes into a boxing ring. At this point, he's admitted in a therapeutic behavior program. He's coming home soon, but he still has a lot of self-injurious behavior. He has the programs in place for the home, but it seems like nothing works. I've been battling this for so many years. Is there anything else that I can possibly do to help him? And Jenny, just sending you a hug because I can't even imagine how helpless you must feel.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Severe self-injury is a whole different animal. Like we're talking about a whole different level of pain. So, yeah, first of all, air hugs and more power to you for surviving it. But more importantly, you know, there are lots of different theories about self-injury and that our kids don't have the ability to sense enough, so therefore they evoke those types of things upon themselves in order to be able to feel something. I honestly feel like self-injury might be indicative of either pain or discomfort. And I would say, you know, all the treatments that exist out there are treatments that have to do with reducing the self-injury by reducing kind of the consequences after it. So like, you know, the child is blocked from self-injurious behavior or you know, put under unpleasant conditions in order to prevent the self-injury, et cetera, et cetera. From my perspective, I think you should be looking at what could potentially be causing any kind of pain or discomfort for him, and maybe doing some things that are more in the sensory regulation area to try to calm his senses. So for instance, there is self-injury that is this, sort of hitting your head. And sometimes that, some of the kids, I wonder, and we don't know, that's why I'm saying might. I wonder if they have headaches. Yeah. I wonder if they have you know, just a sensation that's very uncomfortable. And so I would, in those types of cases, talk to the physician and try to figure out if you should actually, maybe you can reduce it. I mean, he's 15 years old. There's really no harm in trying to see if Advil helps or, right, you know, some sort of painkiller helps, and whether or not that would, and I bet you no one's ever even thought of that. Like, yeah, these are the things that I would try. If it's self-injury, sometimes you have children who have a lot of gastrointestinal pain and they're doing this kind of thing. I don't know exactly what kind of, sometimes you have kids who are biting their hands, and that's a form of pretty common self-injury. And that could also, what I would do with those types of things is, aside from, if you cover the child's hand with gloves, let's say, and they continue to try to bite, it's not necessarily the hand, it might be the teeth. And sometimes those are the things that you have to kind of replace. So for instance, allowing the child to bite onto something else when they need to bite. Or if it is the skin or the pressure here, you know, using massage tools and activities. Honestly, if it is pain, you should try to figure out the source of the pain. If it is sensory in nature, you should try to replace it with something that gives the child the same sensation and pressure. So, you know, if the child is trying to produce some sort of pain here, then give them the ability to have massage here or pressure here or something like that. They're trying to produce pressure in their mouth, give them something else that they can bite or chew on. I mean, Temple Grandin talks a lot about the need for pressure.
Yes.
And I feel like that is absolutely something that I've seen in a lot of our kids.
Absolutely. So for this mom, just to clarify, go back to the doctors while he's still in the facility that he's in and ask them to look at, is there potential for pain? And look at where the self-injury is happening.
Yeah.
Because that sometimes has clues. We've had some kids that, as a result of parents watching the show, have gone and had their kids scoped and found that their intestines are filled with ulcers.
Yes, I know.
And then the improvement after they treat that in those kids has been, I mean,
tremendous.
It's beyond life-changing. They're different individuals when they're not in that screeching pain.
Absolutely, and they just don't know how to tell us because this is what they've had lifelong. So
Yes.
they think this is the norm.
Exactly.
The thing is that a lot of times you'll tell a doctor and the doctor will just say, oh no, that's not, and then you give up on something that you shouldn't give up on.
Right.
So like anything else with autism, and you're 15 years into being a mom of an autistic child, you need to pursue this. You need to continue and you need to push forward, and don't give up because a doctor sort of boo-hoos it. It's not necessarily, it could be, we're not saying it definitely is, but definitely keep open the idea that it might be pain related, or it may be very sensory related, and that's where you're going. I would also just suggest, just think about it in your own, if it was you, all right? I always try to put myself in the position of my kids here, and I think, okay, if I was having serious pain and nobody was really understanding, I wasn't getting any kind of medication. I mean, think about how we react when we even have a migraine, right? I mean, some of our kids might be living with that forever and we just don't know. So assume it's something like that, right? What do you do? The only thing you do is you lay down, you calm down, you try to shut out stimuli.
Yeah.
So I would also suggest that you give him a very peaceful, quiet zone. One of my kids who had a lot of gastrointestinal issues. This child had like 10 times a day diarrhea and like constant problems. One of the things that helped him the most was that we just put a giant beanbag in the corner and allowed him approximately every 5 minutes to go over there, put his Bose, we gave him Bose headphones, and glasses, dark glasses, and he would just literally, that was his quiet time, and he would request it all the time.
Right.
He'd go over there, lay in his beanbag, put on his headphones and his glasses, and then we'd get him like a minute later. He just needed to down-regulate every 5 minutes.
Yeah. I honestly think that we all need that, and that people are taking that in lots of really weird ways. Like, people are doing that with Candy Crush on their phone. It's that,
no question,
it's
no
like
question.
a time where you just go, phoom, I'm not thinking about any of the things that I have to think about. And our kids really need it. And I know parents will say, well, but that's not real world. You can't just go and be on a beanbag. We got to take things as they come, and to start there, and it is real world. You're taking a minute, you take a break, and you go to the restroom and take a minute to regroup.
Absolutely.
And it's so much easier to give them a break than to deal with them being in the pain or hurting themselves or lashing out at somebody else.
Yes, absolutely.
So much easier.
I'm hopeful, Shannon, that this is like one of those things that I think would easily, I mean, I remember the first experience I had when Jem put me on his virtual reality on Oculus Rift, and do you remember my first? I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
I videotaped it.
Did you really? That's so funny. But the place that he has set up for his home screen, I guess, is just, it's peaceful. Heaven.
Yeah.
And I was just in there and I was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful. And I kept looking around and I was like, this is like heaven. It's like peace.
Yes.
So just imagine a child having the ability to go there when they're worked up, right?
Yes.
It's like the best thing.
Absolutely.
And children that's what I'm hoping, like one of the things we could do with virtual reality is just set up really peaceful environments that they choose.
Yes.
They can make their own environment that's heaven, right? Each child will have their own reinforcing area. And if they can produce that and then be able to go there when they need to go there, I mean, that's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get to this one really quick because I think that this is a great question. Thomasina wants to know, how do we get children on the spectrum to clean up after themselves?
No, that's
This
great.
is like the key to everything.
That is so awesome. So, like anything else, you want to increase the behavior, you reinforce it. So, what I would do is and this varies how you do this based on the level of functioning of the child, but essentially you just break it into smaller steps and you reinforce each step. So, at the if it's very hard to communicate with the particular child, you just set it up so that you clean up most of it, and the last step, the last thing that has to be cleaned up, the child does, and then you give them a reinforcer. And then 2 days later, you make the child do the last 2 steps to get their reinforcer. And then you do that for a while, and then you make the child do the last 3 steps and the last 4 steps. This is called backward chaining. And so you essentially get the child eventually to clean up completely and get the same level of reinforcer as if they were just doing 1 step. And then once you have that down, and the reinforcer has to be powerful, right? Because they don't want to clean up, right? So the reinforcer has to be something like a food item they really want, or to go outside, or something that's very powerful. And once you've done that, then and it starts to become routine, then you can start to reduce the reinforcer. You can reduce the amount of the reinforcer, and you can reduce the frequency of the reinforcer. So you can give it every other day, like, once in the morning only, not in the afternoon cleanup. So that's how you do it.
I tell you, you get this under control, and it's the best thing. You have a play date and have people over, and they're astounded by how well your child cleans up. Yeah. And I think also knowing what your kid is into and what they respond to is a really powerful thing. For some reason, Jem liked racing. Mm-hmm. So if it was a thing where if there was another kid that was there, if it was just me, and I would say, okay, we have to get all the Legos in the bin, and whoever can get the most in the next minute gets to decide what we're having for lunch.
That's so true.
Right? Whatever it was. And there'd be a kid there, neurotypical, who didn't like to clean up, and the mother would say, you're never going to get him to clean up, right? And I would say, okay, so we're going to have this race, and whoever gets the most in, and we're going to count while we do it. You have to count your pieces, so we'd be working on numbers too, and we'd say, ready, set, go. And I would pick up like 3 and run, and then I would stop and let them go crazy. And, it was always the other kid would get in and be throwing the blocks in, and the mother would go, what are you, a genius? And I go, no, I'm an ABA mom.
It's funny because you just gave me an idea. I was writing it down real quickly, because like we don't think, in ABA we teach so many things, right? And I guess my mind starts with, I started teaching kids with ABA like 40 years ago. Right. So back then, it was just a matter of like, if you accomplished a lot if you taught the child imitation and basic labels. Yeah. And then as we developed this, we developed mostly things that have to do with language, mostly things that have to do with social, and so on. But then over the years, I realized that there are so many things that are so important to parents that we just don't even think of it, because it's just this tiny thing we teach, right? It's like putting away your toys. It's not something that we think is highly valuable, but it is, right? It is. So I was just writing to myself to ask you to help me, and all of our viewers who are parents, help me identify those little things that are really important, that make life so much easier. So like, I remember a parent telling me one of the most valuable gifts we gave was teaching the child to get ready in the morning, because it was such a battle getting the child to go to school. Yeah. And every morning, like, getting ready, and then once we got the child on a schedule, it was like this, right? Oh, yeah. Or another parent told me swallowing pills was probably the biggest gift, because the child before that, it would take her something like 2 hours a day to get the child to take all their medication. Yeah. So, I'm really interested in knowing, like, what are the top 5 really high value things that you would like your child to do?
I'm going to task everybody who's watching and, write in what you guys think, because I would love to hear from you. But I think when you think about those most stressful times of the day, morning, getting the morning routine, the whole morning routine, and getting them to be able to automate some of it themselves at a certain age. The whole getting ready for bed thing. I mean, of course, like, and then getting your child to go to bed and stay in bed, that's like the keys to the kingdom. Obviously, the potty training at a certain point was a huge, big deal, but getting your child to leave one thing to go to another thing. So whether it's leaving the pool or you've taken them to the McDonald's playland and they're playing and it's time to go. When I got those things under control, not only was my life less stress, but it also was currency. With other parents then looked at my child and wanted to do play dates because they thought that was something that was desirable, that their child would pick up. And they thought that I had some magic fairy dust in my pockets that I had figured something out.
Right.
And I will say this, that my group of friends came to think of, oh, well, when kids have autism, they're extra polite.
Yeah.
And they follow the rules. And like, isn't that a nice thing for us
That's
to peddle?
awesome. That's awesome.
Right?
Honestly, as opposed to the image everybody else has.
Exactly. They're like, oh,
absolutely.
no, kids with autism are like the most polite. They follow the rules. They do what you ask. They're happy, sunny little children.
Absolutely.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep peddling that. You don't see everything that went into that.
Yeah.
But also being able to go to the store and grocery shop with them. When they taught my son how to hold on to the cart and go with me and not run away and ask before you, oh, I could shop again.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so those are mine, but I want to hear from you guys. Write in and say, all right, we're going to take a quick break while you guys write in, and we're going to come back with more of your questions online. So stick with us.
Can you have a life with autism? Absolutely not. Give it up right now. No, that's not true. I'm here to tell you, you can have a life with autism. I have a life with autism, and it's a good one. When you start on this journey, you don't know what's going to happen. You really have no idea. You're kind of in shell shock for the first couple years. It could be as long as 5 years until you realize, I do matter to people. When my son was first diagnosed, I remember thinking I would go anywhere and do anything for him. I didn't even think about it. I just came way at the bottom of the list. However, after a few years passed, I realized if I'm not important anymore, then that means no one's going to be here for him. So how do you have this life with autism? It's not easy. It's never going to be easy, but it can be done. It's really all about support. And support is a word you're going to hear a lot when you deal with the autism power structure. And that means schools, government agencies, social service agencies that can help you. There are things out there that you don't even know exist. So once you start connecting with other parents, you're going to kind of find this treasure chest full of things that only they can help you unlock. But once you get that support, it could be a babysitter coming to your home. It could be a therapist to take your child out and get him into the community. You can either leave the house, do your shopping, go to a farmer's market, do whatever you want to do. And it doesn't matter if it's really, and your willingness to accept change and your willingness to kind of stick up for yourself, because you're battling for your child and you have to realize you guys are connected. There's a bond between you and your child that can never be broken. And if you're doing well, then your child's going to do well. So finding what you need to be happy, whole, and healthy as a person is a way that you can have a life with autism. And that's important too, because if you have a life with autism, you can also give your child a life too.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back. We were just saying how fabulous Brianna Yeedy is. She is a lovely little actress, and what a great advocate for autism.
Amazing.
Amazing young woman. We have a question about what are some resources for single parents who may need a break for herself or relax or a day that they spend for themselves. And of course, this is under the heading of respite.
Absolutely. And so that really just depends on where you are. And again, I think, like, you know, honestly, I feel like one of the side benefits that I hope payers will recognize as a big side benefit of ABA is the fact that when your child gets to go to an ABA center, like all of our stuff is center-based, it gives the parent a respite. And it doesn't mean that a parent is uninvolved, because our parents are very well trained, but it means that the parent gets to take a breath and relax and, you know, go shower and lay down for 5 minutes.
It's essential.
It's essential to the parent's health. And that's
To
what
everything.
I think. To everything, right? But I think from the payer's perspective, I'm always arguing with them and saying, do you realize that this is reducing the medical needs of the family? Because the families are falling apart trying to take care of the children, you know?
Well, it's a bit hypocritical of them to begin with, because one of the battles, and we have an interview tomorrow with an amazing mom, Kathy Beer, who took on the insurance companies because they put into their plan that ABA is something that in the ideal world, you know, the BCBA should do this for a while, and then
hand it off to the parent.
It should hand off to the parent. This knowledge should be transferred to the parent. And she fought, and on behalf of all of you, to have that taken out of insurance.
Yes.
Because it isn't realistic. But by the same token, they argue that, well, the parents need to learn this, and we all know that the parents do need to learn the skills so that they can uphold it when the therapists aren't there. But so you argue that, but then some insurances aren't willing to cover the respite for the family so that they are in a place where they could do it.
Absolutely.
But in the best of all worlds, you'd live in some place where you do have respite. There are states where there's something called in-health home services that you can apply for, and they will do one of two things. They will, well, first of all, they will grant you some respite hours, but then they will also give you funds to hire either yourself or someone else to be able to do some of the things that have to be done with your child that wouldn't have to be done with another child. In the state of California, they will give up to $4,000 a month to a family to hire other people. That can be driving your child to the center because you can't leave work to do it.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't know about it until we had some amazing card parents who came on the show to talk about how they're helping other parents to get these services.
Yeah, we need to disseminate this information a little bit better.
Absolutely. And so there's that in California. There are some other states that have other programs, and we're trying to sort out to get the Reader's Digest for each state. State of California also has regional centers and does respite through that. But I know you need it now. And one of the things that I remember Temple Grandin saying to me the first time I met her, she said, if parents would just organize so that even if it's one other mom that you know,
she's right,
and that you know, if you're looking for the funding, but if there was one other mom you know, and once a week that mom takes your kid, and once a week you take their kid, that's respite.
That's so true.
So it's available to all of us. We just have to be a little bit.
That's a really good
solution. You gotta search things out.
That's a very good solution.
Right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Temple always, she says to me, I'm a problem solver. That's what I do.
She's so right. She's so right. And, you know, it reminds me of people like Mary Jane, you know, in the smallest of villages, really. She was able to, like, get all of these neighbors
Yes.
and people from her church together to come in and to help work with Ruffin and just like take care of things, you know?
Yes. For those of you who don't know the story that she's talking about, there is the DVD Recovered, which tells the story of 4 individuals who, as children, were treated by CARD, and CARD videotaped at different aspects and then came back and sat and talked with them when they were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's amazing to watch that DVD. It's on Netflix. You guys can get it on.
Yeah. And can we mention that we're doing a follow-up at least?
We can.
And I think we're doing now 3 follow-ups so that we will
with
be
with 3 of the kids,
the lives of each of the kids, right?
Who are adults now, and they're starting with Ruffin. And I think I can say that Kelby, who used to work with us here, is spearheading the project. And when Kelby gets excited about something, you know, it's like, woo-hoo!
He's very excited.
He's very excited.
And I'm very happy that he's very excited because I'm very excited,
Yeah.
and I'm. And I'm just so proud of these kids. Yeah.
Well,
and there's so many of our kids that are I'm just so tremendously proud of how far they've come and what they do with their lives, and it's amazing.
And it's eye-opening to be able to see. I always forget the first time that my husband met someone who was recovered.
Right.
And it was somebody that I knew quite well, and I was standing and talking with this person. I talked to my husband endlessly and said, "You won't believe when you meet this young man, you just can't believe what's possible." And he was like, "Oh, okay, I can't wait to meet him."
Was it Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
It was
Yeah.
Joe. And so then there was an event, and we were standing with a bunch of people, and I introduced my husband to everybody that was standing there. We were talking. And then everybody, dispersed, and I said to my husband, "Isn't that amazing?" And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Isn't that amazing that he was a kid like our kid? And isn't it amazing to see an adult and see?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "That's him. That's Joe. That's who I've been talking to you about." And he said, "What? What? That's a recovered kid?" And he got so excited.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to faint. Honestly, because he
just never
and what
imagined.
he said was, like, all the blood left his head, and he said, "Okay, I didn't know that was possible."
Yeah.
And then he got teary, and he was like,
Yeah.
"I feel lightheaded. I need to sit down." He goes, "That's possible?"
Yeah.
And I gotta say, for all the moms who are like, "How do I get the dad involved?" He got more involved after that. He was like, "I didn't know."
Yeah.
Okay, game on.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps all
Right?
over.
I've got them because it's
Yeah,
important to know what's possible.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I would say hope, right? Hope's the favorite
Absolutely,
4-letter word. We all have to
absolutely.
have it. All right, we're really out of time.
Yes.
But I want to thank you because it's always
It's a
amazing
pleasure,
to have you
such a
here.
pleasure.
I can't believe how fast that hour went. But in any case, you guys, remember that in 2 weeks' time, I think we have Dr. Grandpichet back. Not next Wednesday because it's the 4th of July here in the United States. We're going to take a break right now. And then it is going to be time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspaw-Jackson is here in the building. We're excited that she's here. She's going to join me, and we've got special guests. We have a mom and her son who is a comedian on the autism spectrum, so that's going to be nice and lighthearted. And a mom who is helping other moms to get themselves organized to get the most out of their ABA years and get their homes and their lives a-working. So all that coming up in Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Stick with us.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
What do you want to eat?
Can I have corn on the cob and some turkey?
I want to eat anything else.
Yeah, I want dessert now. A few months ago, Jessica and Jack Riley began doing functional pretend play, where they played with toys functionally. For example, placing pretend food on a plate and then pretending to eat it. Recently, they began practicing socio-dramatic play, where they each take on a different role. They've been playing restaurant, where they take turns being the waiter, cook, and customer.
Say hi, welcome to the restaurant.
Hi, welcome to my restaurant.
Hi.
I want to eat.
Good job. I would like to eat some oranges and a hot dog, please.
Hello, welcome to my restaurant. What would you like to eat today?
I want to eat hot dogs and drinky burgers.
You want a hot dog, a burger, anything to drink? Milk?
Now that he understands the different roles, they're going on an outing to a real restaurant to see if he can implement what he's learned through play.
Jack Riley, where are we going?
To the restaurant.
To the what?
Restaurant.
You're not saying the word really.
We're going to the restaurant.
Thank you.
Come on, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm coming. Have you gone to a restaurant with Jack Riley recently?
Not recently. It's been quite a while actually, so we've been sort of excited because we haven't gone since he's been sort of playing restaurant at home.
I'm gonna ask the lady some pie.
Here's breakfast. These are good breakfasts right here.
And there's all of us at the top of that.
Those are burgers and pizza and stuff, but we want to have breakfast, I think.
And there's mud and ice cream on the pizza.
Yeah.
Do you like the restaurant so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's coffee that you want to drink.
Daddy wants a drink. What do you want? What do you want?
I want a piece of pie.
I think we're not going to have pie. We'll come back for dinner and have pie, okay?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. Thank you. Can I get your drinks?
Can I have a? I want a blueberry waffles, please.
Good order, Jack Riley. You ordered all by
Thanks,
yourself.
I appreciate it.
And I wanted that so
Thank you.
Yummy. Real blueberries. Look at this. Special order.
It has yogurt.
Did you say thank you, Jack?
Oh no, that's even better than yogurt.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Great appetite.
Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't even finish all that. You are a growing boy.
Hey, can we sit better? Can we sit better, buddy?
Hey, mister, I don't see your face. There it is.
There you go.
Just FYI, this is totally typical.
Do you want to eat more or do you want to be done? Huh?
Do it, please.
What's he going to do? What's he going to do?
Looking for next time, Jack Riley.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaw Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod, and thrilled to be here with
Thrilled
you.
to be here with you.
And we've got a lot in today's show.
Mhm.
We've got some news, most of which is good. One is horrible.
Right.
And then we have Faith Clark is going to be joining us in just a little while. And she is the co-founder of Melody of Autism.
Mhm.
And she's sort of an expert, as I see it, in organizing your life and getting things done and getting things done well.
While you're dealing with having a child on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk with her about how she helps moms and families to get themselves productive and organized.
Right.
And then a little bit later on the show, we have Jordan Hollow. He is a 17-year-old on the spectrum, and he is a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
How much
So
do we love
people
that?
don't think humor and autism go together. They do.
Who is it that thinks that? I don't think that. I don't subscribe to that.
No.
But I'm sure that there are people
Yeah,
who think that.
so-
But I think there's a growing number of comedians that are on
Mhm.
the autism
Mhm.
spectrum. So Jordan's going to be here with his mom, Michelle.
Yeah. And Faith Clark, by the way, also has a book called Parenting Like a Ninja.
Yeah,
So,
pretty impressive.
yeah.
So they're going to be joining us a little bit later, but first we've got some in the news.
Yes, Frozen and SpongeBob SquarePants and more to offer autism-friendly performances.
Yes, I love it when they do this every year.
Right.
It's a growing thing on
It's
Broadway.
Theater Development Fund.
Yes.
Season of Accessibility.
And they really work with the community to take shows that are on Broadway and that are popular and figure out what is it in this show that we would need to do differently to do a sensory-friendly production? And, you know, for the first time ever, I had just gone to the Miracle Project of their most recent show, and they were doing the sensory-friendly version of it. And I'd never actually, I've been to the movies once when they do the sensory-friendly movies, but I'd never actually been to a theater performance.
Right.
And one of the things that they came out beforehand, we actually went live with their instructions. You can find it on our Facebook page, but one of the things that they asked was that because noise can be very upsetting sometimes to some individuals in the audience, they asked that we show our appreciation the way they do at a show for the deaf.
Right.
And I've gone to
wave
many,
your hands rather than clap.
yes. And it took all of us a little while. There was a learning curve because we would go, oh.
Yeah, right, right.
But I find I'm still doing it. It's like 3 weeks later and something happens and I go,
Right,
oh.
right.
And everybody kind of looks at me and I'm like, I'm happy about it. Right? But it was an entirely different experience. The house lights stayed on.
Right.
And I think those were the two biggest considerations at the Miracle Project. But I know for some of the theater things, like, have you seen the production of The Curious Incident of the Dog?
No, I have not seen it.
Okay, well, it is amazing, and just we've seen the Broadway touring production of it. It's intensive. There's a lot of flashing lights,
right,
and there's all these things. And they had when it was time for them to do a sensory-friendly production, they had to scale a lot of their tech down,
right?
Because it's intense. And but now this season, this list of things that they're taking on.
They've got SpongeBob SquarePants, followed by The Lion King, Frozen, Aladdin, and My Fair Lady.
Which, how much do we love that? Now, these are very specific dates.
Yes.
So the SpongeBob SquarePants is happening on July 15th.
I think they said that was sold out.
Oh, very likely.
Right.
The Lion King is September 30th. Frozen is November 4th. Aladdin is March 3rd of next year. And My Fair Lady is May 5th of next year. I just really, really appreciate that they're taking the time to do this. I love how the New York community has come together around autism. There's the League of Museums that looks at how we can make museum experiences. It's a great place to visit. If you're on the autism spectrum and want to be a part of everything that's happening, you go to New York, right? The center of the world. Okay, let's do our bad news.
Yes.
And then we'll end with our
another child found in a pond. A 6-year-old boy with autism found in a Coffin County pond.
I have to say that on Sunday when he went missing, there were several people who reached out to me and said, "Are you aware of this little boy that's missing?" And
this is in Texas.
Yes, in Texas. And I have many friends and relatives in Texas, and they were like, "Is this, did you know about this?" And I didn't get the messages until really late on Sunday. And then, of course, it was like within an hour they retrieved his body. And here is the thing: this attracted national news. Because it's a little boy, and he's particularly sweet and has this sweet face that I think that is part of what grabbed the national news. But in every story that I read about this, they said the same thing. This is such a tragedy, but one of the good things that came out of this was that we saw that the community came together to search for this boy. And while I appreciate that, I just want to say that's the wrong thing. If we really want to be a good community, then we need to come together before the child is missing.
Right.
That's really what we need to do. How many times have you and I sat on this show and talked about the death of an individual, and usually a child, on the autism spectrum because of these kinds of things?
Because of wandering or elopement.
Which often leads to drowning, which is exactly what happened in these circumstances.
Gravitate to water.
And that is a reality. And I always think about one of the things that Dr. Jonathan Tarbox said to me and said to our viewers. He said, imagine if your child had the ability to say to you, the minute you turn your back, I'm going to run away. And I'm going to run towards water. And the chill that puts down your spine. And what would you do if your child could say that? And he said, then do that. Whatever it is that you would do if your child could say that, then do that. And it isn't just on the parents, it's on the community. It's on our first responders. It's as a community giving funds so that that family can put the right things in place to prevent this, and so that the right training can happen. Your organization,
Act
Nancy,
Today gives away fences and tracking devices. We just gave grants to 2 fences to families, and they're very expensive, these
they
fences.
are. But you have a whole program that's called Stop
Right.
Autism Death
That's
by
right.
Elopement, and it covers everything, because
Right.
often people say, well, what do I need to do? Whether it's a family who's like, I don't know what to do, how do I keep my kids safe? Or whether it's a business who says, I don't know how to help with that, right? And you have a comprehensive program that covers everything from training for the family to securing the perimeter to educating the people in the community and making sure that it all works.
Right.
There's short-term solutions to keep the child safe, alarms and locks and things that will go off, alarms that go off in the pool and the neighbor's pool. But there's also long-term solutions working with the police and the firefighters, the first responders, and with the families to get that child proper ways of communicating. Because if the child could say, I want to go see the puppy, right? Then you would know to take them to the puppy, and the child wouldn't be breaking out to go see the puppy.
Communication is key here, and having a way for your child to communicate.
Absolutely. Functional communication, whether it's speech or an iPad or something, so that they have the means and the understanding to know you can't just run away. But you can ask, and if you ask, we'll let you do that. It's essential, and until we as a community say that, these stories are going to continue. So, okay.
And there's a new story about hundreds of genes that may underlie intelligence, but also autism and depression.
Yes,
which
one
is
of the
very
things,
interesting.
Yes. Now, originally they found 52 genes that linked that were just intelligence. They signified, oh, this person is likely to be more intelligent. But in the last year and a half, they found thousands of genes that are linked to intelligence. What they also found, it's one of those old Venn diagrams from math, right? So here are the genes about intelligence, but then there are ones that deal with depression that overlap. Now, I think maybe the good news about this is that the genes that were associated with autism were also associated with intelligence.
Yes.
And
they found that many of the genes associated with higher intelligence turned up in people who also lived longer and did not have Alzheimer's disease, attention deficit, ADHD, or schizophrenia, suggesting that intelligence protects against those disorders.
Right, but there were 500 separate genes that were associated with neurotic traits.
Yes.
That some of the obsessive compulsive stuff that we see, anxiety, depression. So I think the brilliant takeaway here is to say, well, isn't it amazing that autism and intelligence seem to be linked genetically, but also to further research how we can deal with depression and anxiety from a genetic level, how we can help people who already have those genes to combat those things. Once they know what they're dealing with, it should be easier to treat those things. One would hope.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that.
Okay.
All right, so that's our news.
We're going to take a break.
We are.
And are we back with, did we say Faith Clark first?
Faith Clark first from Melody of Autism.
And Parenting Like a Ninja.
There we go. We'll be right back after these messages.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
I want to tell you a couple of stories today. 4 months after I got my son with autism's diagnosis that he had autism, I gave up my career as a computer analyst, as an educator at the tertiary level. I felt like I couldn't cope. My life was pulled in multiple directions as I tried to figure out parenting him, the charge to kind of fix him, and then just to be a career woman and run my family. I just felt like I couldn't handle it and I walked away. Now I help autism moms who want to create high impact family-centered businesses do just that. Create income and life in a way that really fits the rhythm of their lives. But I want to tell you how I got there. There are 2 days at 4 o'clock. I want to tell you about 4 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock one morning. I hadn't gone to sleep yet. My son was by this time a teenager. Autism plus puberty is autism with steroids. What that means is that all the stuff we had to deal with, impulse control and tantrums, just up. More OCD, it was crazy. And I just remember that feeling of multiple days on a row, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't slept yet. I was exhausted. And I thought, we've been doing this since he was 2. I don't think I can keep this up. I don't think I can manage. I wanted to help moms like me, and I couldn't figure out how to do it, but I knew something had to shift for me so that I could be of service. Other people were facing this dilemma. And I'd solved some of the challenges we faced as meeting with the first person to ever hire me as an autism parent coach. I figured he could help me. He's a serial entrepreneur. He knew all kinds of nerdy, techie stuff. We have a background in computer science together. He's a musician, amazing guy. And I said, how do I help people? And we shared our ideas. He said, come over, let's talk. And after about 4 hours together, I just remember that moment, like 5 seconds before I became an entrepreneur, when he said, hey, the domain name is available. Do you want it? And I'm looking at him in shock, like, what? I don't have any money. All my doubts, right? I'd walked away from corporate. I'd walked away from education. I had no background. How do I run a business? He says, it's available. Do you want it? He says, I'll take out my credit card. Boom. melodyofautism.com, my first official business. And I said, oh my goodness, I have to do it now. I have to do something. And I became a business owner. And that was a pivotal moment for me because it created this shift from being fully focused on what was going on in my own life and the chaos I was feeling to how do I help other people in their chaos. There's a movement going on. I don't know if you've noticed it. Do you know how many businesses are run by autism families and special needs families? There are so many solutions to the problems that we face that are being solved by people like us. And it's being solved in ways that fit the life that we face. Send email to faith@melodyofautism.com and we can talk about your place in this movement.
So that was
Okay,
Faith Clark.
Right, and we're going to be having her coming up very shortly.
Yes, but we've got a couple of minutes before her interview, and we
Right.
had some more questions that came in. We had somebody write in and say, my child was being ignored, so he tried harder to get attention. The teachers were trying to extinguish the behavior, but they were only making it worse. And I think it's important that we recognize, I think the whole process of what to pay attention to and how to pay attention to it and extinguishing attention getting behavior is one of the most complicated things that there is for a parent to understand.
It really is hard.
And I want to say that it took me at least 3 years to begin to get a handle on it, and that the folks at school, I don't think they ever got it. Bless their hearts, and they meant well, but I think it's one of those concepts that's really difficult. But let me put it to you in this way, that all of us and our kids, when we engage in challenging behavior, we do it because we're getting something we need. And that's what we have to focus on, is what is it that, why are they doing this? What is it that they want? And when it's a behavior that we don't like, we want to give them the exact opposite. The exact opposite. So if I'm tantruming because I want a cookie and I'm saying, give me the cookie, give me the cookie, give me the cookie, I want the cookie. What do?
I don't give you the cookie.
You don't give me the cookie under any circumstances.
Right, because the negative behavior is simply cry out for attention, what that child wants.
But at another time, what you would do is take me aside and teach me how to properly request for a cookie.
Right.
And every time I properly requested for a cookie, you would give it to me, right? Because I'm doing the behavior you want. So when we want attention, when you know for sure that attention is the thing that the person wants, we don't give them that attention. It's called planned ignoring, because it's not quite the same as ignoring, and a lot of teachers get it wrong.
Putting it on extinction?
Yes, it's called, but that anytime, you not giving me the cookie, that's not ignoring, that's refusing to give me the cookie.
Right.
And that's putting it on extinction.
Okay.
It's when you cut off the supply of whatever it was feeding the thing.
And the behaviors may get worse in the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we have the hardest time understanding, is that when you think that you have what the function of the behavior is, you go, this is attention. So I'm not, if you're going, give it to me, whatever it is, and I'm not paying attention to you, if I shout louder, then you got it right.
Right.
That means you got it right, and you got to hang in through it. If there's no reaction, then you probably didn't get it right. So you get this, what they call an extinction burst, and I always say my light switch. I go to my light switch, and my expectation is I turn it and it's going to come on, right? And then I'll go one day and I turn it and the light doesn't come on. And I don't go, oh, I better go change the light bulb. I stand there and go,
right.
That's an extinction burst. I'm an intelligent person.
Right.
And I go like this because it always worked before. Why isn't it working now?
Right. Got it.
That's the extinction burst. Okay.
So,
quick break,
so
and then we're coming back
yeah,
with
we're
Faith
coming
Clark.
Back. Faith Clark.
Stick with us.
Yeah.
Hello, activists. Let's talk about step 7. Recognize your gifts and abilities. Whatever gifts and abilities you had before autism entered your life, you have them now. And I bet you've developed some that you didn't even know you had. Those gifts and abilities are going to help you in your journey of parenting a child with autism spectrum disorders. Maybe you're a born researcher, teacher, negotiator, or organizer. Well, you're going to need all of those talents. And you could find a whole new calling. That's what happened to me. If you had told me 20 years ago that I was going to leave behind a career as a television producer to work as an autism advocate and activist, I would have said, you're nuts. If you don't think you have any special gifts or abilities, ask someone who loves you. They'll tell you what they are. I guarantee you, you have them. What's your special gift? Find it, use it, for yourself, for your child, for the good of all concerned. Until next time, keep the faith.
And we're back, and now we're going to be joined via Skype by Faith Clark. And you heard her speak just a moment ago. Faith coaches, consults, and creates experiences that help others take their desired next steps. Parents of children with autism. She's the co-founder of Melody of Autism, which helps ASD families thrive. So she's a performance coach, and she's curator of autisticbizmoms.com. Club, a community of women who want both impact and healthy balance. Welcome to the show, Faith.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes.
We're thrilled to have you. And in all those wonderful things that you listed, Nancy, one of the things that became clear in the video is that Faith is also an autism mom.
Right.
And so she's got firsthand information in this area to help folks. So Faith, we saw this wonderful video with you when you talked about how you decided to become a coach, but talk about some of the things that you've been able to help families with.
So and with Melody of Autism, part of what I started with was this question: how can we expand the tribe, the village around each family and each child? Because I realized that autism is not each child with autism is different, and so child care and kind of really specialized support was very, very hard and difficult to afford. And so part of what I like to work with families with is how to understand your child in a very, I think, gentle and nourishing and supportive way, and then how to help others join a movement, if you want to call it, to understand your child in that way and so offer support. And so whether it's the after school nanny or somebody just to take your child to therapy, I think all the hands that interact with your child with autism or any other special need, they need to have an intuitive understanding of who your child is. And so I tend to work with families on how to build that and work with the caregivers on how to understand in those ways.
Now, this all comes from personal experience. Talk about how you had a major career. You were a computer programmer on Wall Street, and you taught at the college level. You had a career in computer engineering and systems analysis. So, but did you give this up because of your child with autism? Can you talk about that?
It was a crisis moment when I got the diagnosis, because I really wanted to, I guess, ground myself. I didn't understand how to do both. I didn't understand how to be a mom, how to have a child with autism, how to, like, my dreams for my child felt completely different from my dreams for myself. And I didn't know how to pull them together. And frankly, I didn't care to. I didn't feel like I wanted to try. And so I stopped. I kind of gave up my job, and I was able to be home, and that was good. And then I kind of threw myself into what is autism intervention? How do we fix him? How do we cure him? But not with poor self-management. I mean, I was really good at learning and understanding and navigating, but there was also, I didn't kind of know about self-care or even tune into that. And so over time, it was just quick to burnout and feeling pulled in multiple directions, therapists saying different things. How do you, integration is a big word for me, both as a systems programmer and just as a human. And I didn't feel like I knew how to integrate it all. And so I kind of got to the place where I just stopped everything.
Okay.
And it's so fascinating because as you're talking about, I think we can all relate to it, that you kind of lose yourself into your child. And this is one of the things that you talk about so eloquently is the relationship between the parent and the child and the emotional health and well-being of that. And so how do you help families to work with that?
I think on a really deep level, we all know what feels good to us in our relationships, but as we engage this path of intervention and the structure and these ever-closing developmental windows and all this, we kind of lose this sense of what feels good. So I try to bring, especially the mom, back to that place of what does your child really love? And what do you really love about your child? And it could just be as simple as he leans on me and touches his head to mine and he smiles, and making those moments really big and making the pleasure and the joy that we have from parenting our children be the anchoring spot and building out from there. I remember a moment in my own journey, and a client and I were talking about this, that every single moment can't be about where you pardon my delicacy, where you put the poop. Like, it can't be constantly on the put your lips this way, brush your teeth this way, or read this word. And so helping families to pay attention to the pleasure, to the joy, to the juicy stuff in the relationship and making that the priority. And from that point, choosing one thing. It may be that we're just working on the child being able to communicate in one specific way. But that's just the one thing that you're allowing yourself to police right now. Police nothing else. Everything else, if people aren't bleeding and dying, let's just leave it alone. And kind of giving ourselves permission to be in those moments where we leave things alone and just allow.
I love that,
don't think
Faith, because I love that because then we get back to a substantial portion of the day enjoying our kids. And I think they deserve that and we deserve that. So I love what you're saying.
Talk a little bit about parenting like a ninja. This is an Autism Mom's Guide to Professional Productivity.
So parenting like a ninja was the way I took out of my head the journey I'd been on. That journey from feeling fragmented and kind of pulled in multiple directions to the place where I feel more integrated, more purposeful, more productive, more organized. And still I'm not sleeping nights because my son still doesn't sleep well at night. So it's a journey through mindfulness, some of the tools that I've used, through mindfulness, through some of the strategic thinking that I knew how to do as an engineer, applying that to my own life, to the place where I am constantly refining a plan that works for me. And I invite moms and others just into this space of being productive by knowing how to direct your energy in the way you choose, not having your energy pulled all over, but knowing how to direct it in the way you choose.
And you say that autism moms are hackers and that entrepreneurship can be an emotional health buffer. What do you mean by that?
So I think that autism moms are the perfect candidates for entrepreneurship because we fix stuff just on the fly, on the go. Who has the time to figure out if there's a real product or whatever? Like my son taught me how to pick a lock because he locked all the doors. So you just lock, and who keeps those keys around? So I figured out, with the paper clip, and I figured out how to do that. So I think autism moms have a built-in adaptability that, in performance psychology, we talk about the traits of the entrepreneurial team, and a high adaptability and being able to learn from experience are the traits of an entrepreneur. And so many moms have figured out solutions, and other moms have asked them, hey, how do you do so-and-so? And they share it. And that's the basis of having a product and being able to share that product. And so when I say buffer to the emotional stress that comes with being a special needs mom, many of the autism moms that I know have limited kind of satisfaction at work. The relationships that they have with girlfriends are so it's sometimes fragmented, sometimes limited. And so basic psychological needs are not being met. And that's what makes us vulnerable to emotional distress. And so entrepreneurship is a way to feel competent, to feel productive, to build a village and to build community. And so it can really meet so many of our basic psychological needs that we're not meeting over the course of kind of fixing our kids.
We've got a mom who wrote in on Facebook and wants to know, my question is, how can I build a business in reference to autism? I'd like to have an autism store.
Yeah, wow, that is awesome. And I think, part of the life we live as moms shows us the need for products and services that would make sense to us. And so I think definitely, first of all, I'd love to talk with you offline, just we could brainstorm that and kind of bring it down to something very specific. Many of us who see the need for a business, see the need for multiple products, but for our sanity as autism moms, we should probably start with one. And so, I think you definitely can by honoring the way you work. Many of us have incredible strengths, and if we build the business around our strengths, not based on what others say, not based as much on what the textbooks say, but build it around your strengths and what's good and easy for you, you can definitely have a really productive business.
Faith, you've got such a strong, calming presence,
yes,
right? Do. I can totally see why someone would want to be coached by you, because you make it all seem reasonable and doable, and just you saying, well, that's great, but maybe let's start with one thing. I just took a breath. I was like, oh, doing a store is going to be a whole lot. Oh, one thing. I can do one thing, right? And I hope that this mom thinks so as well, and hopefully you guys will be able to connect with each other.
You. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that was on Facebook. It might have been on YouTube. But Faith, how can people get a hold of you?
Email faith@melodyofautism.com. That's a simple way. Or at autisticbizmoms.club. If they go there and they jump into that group, then just send me a message because I'm there multiple times a day just chatting with people.
Okay.
And is Parenting Like a Ninja available as a book?
Parenting Like a Ninja as an ebook is on Amazon right now. But for members of Autistic Biz Moms, I do have some complimentary copies, so they could hop in and get there.
Okay.
Wonderful. And what do you have to do to join that club?
Tell me that you want to be a culture shifter and you want to do things differently and you want balance in your life between parenting and the other aspects. I think I'm pretty like, come in. It's open door. Just click on the link and it will talk you through.
Now tell us about your situation now. How is you have a child with autism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Jaden is 19. He's 20 this year.
Right.
I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old as well, who are typical, except there's no such thing as typical. So.
Yeah.
And Jaden continues to be significantly challenged. We had 2 regressions, and so autism showed up differently after the second regression, which was also really hard for me. And so he continues to have impulse control issues and a combination of kind of motor difficulties. At the same time, he's learning to type, and as he's been typing, there's been these profound expressions of self-reflection and understanding. A therapist came to the home today and he said to her, "Are you here to help me with autism?" And she said, "Yes." He typed that, and he said, "Sometimes autism prevents me from being able to accept the help." And I thought it was just so profound that he could do that in the middle of his body running all around the house and walking out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is amazing. Now you said he had 2 regressions. Can you explain to our audience what you mean by that?
So when he was 15, somewhere in the 15-month window, I began to see him lose some of the skills he had. And for me, that just looked like I could send him for a toy and he'd go for it. And then over a couple of months, he stopped going. I'd say, "Hey, Jay, go get the doll," and he'd get it, or then he'd go and not get it. And then he would go and not return, and then he would just not go. So we started to see what looked like he wasn't hearing, but I knew he was hearing because he was hyper. He could hear. He responded so sharply to sound. And so that was 15 to 18 months. We got diagnosis when he was 22 months old. When he was 6 years old, it was more distinct. We had, I don't know what it was. He stopped eating. He stopped moving. He lay around in bed. It looked like he had a cold, but he was just really, it was different, and I'm not sure. Could have been like strep into pandas. Those are the speculations people have said. But when he came out of that, he came out having lost the potty training he had. He lost some of the language he had, and he came back with more tics, more twitches, more jerky movements, less smoothness in his body. And a lot of that has remained to this point.
It had to have been devastating
Yeah, it must have been very hard for you.
It was at 6. I had him at 6, and my daughter at 3, and I had an under 1-year-old. So it was really, really a difficult period.
I can only imagine. Well, it's great that you've taken all of your personal experiences and you're using them to help and coach other families.
Amen to that. So let's tell them the website again to go where they can find out more about what you do.
And I didn't say that before. The general website that I can find me at is faithclark.com. But my Melody of Autism work with caregivers, that's melodyofautism.com. And my entrepreneurial work is at autisticbizmoms.club. So if you reach out to me by email, I'll point you to any of the spaces or all. And that would be at faith@melodyofautism.com.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Faith, for being with us, and continued good luck to you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
She's just lovely.
I know.
Just so lovely.
So many different.
And I meant to say, because we saw somebody came in
the background
for a moment and then left. I don't know which one
of
her kids that was, but I thought we were going to have one of those British You remember the British guy who had the 2 kids come in at one point? I thought we were going to have one of those
Right.
interviews, but then
Right.
he saw she was busy and he said, I'm out.
Okay. So
My kid wouldn't have done that. He would have been like, who are you talking
Right,
to?
exactly.
Wyatt would have done that too,
right,
right?
right.
In
So
any case.
we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be back with the comedian, a 17-year-old comedian with autism, Jordan Hollow, and his mother, Michelle C. Hollow.
Stick with us.
My name is Nancy Allspaw Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of Act Today, and I'm here to support this amazing cause for military families with children with autism. Most military families move on average every 2 years. Oftentimes they have a parent who's deployed. With 1 in 68 military children being diagnosed with autism, it's just more critical than ever that we give them the support they need for care and services. This is the 8th year of our run. It's always a great event for the San Diego community, the fitness community, and the military community to come out and support military children with autism.
It's so nice to see so many people out here this morning, not only providing their support morally and emotionally for these families, but financially. And so they're raising a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars. It all goes to treatment and some of the things that these families may not otherwise be able to afford, and so we're just proud to be a part of it.
There's a children's race as well, and it's all kinds of fun too that's mixed up in it all.
This is our 8th year being the title sponsor of the One Hope Act Today Family 5K, 10K Family Festival. And we believe doing good is doing good business. The main thing that we're out here today is because of our Cabernet supports Act Today. And with our Cabernet, we donate back towards Act Today, and we've donated over 2,000 hours of ABA therapy.
Me and Gunny Gitmo came all the way out here from Palm Springs to support this because we do have a son that has autism. And so we come out here to do the support for it all the time. We do a lot of fundraisers out in Palm Springs also.
We had a huge Stroller Warriors group out here. I run with Stroller Warriors Miramar. We had a bunch of ladies run their first ever 10K today. It was amazing. And I have a personal connection to autism. My son Ethan has autism.
I'm in the Navy, and I ran the inaugural Act Today 5K back in 2011, I think it was. And so every time I come back to San Diego, I try and make it around this time so I can come run this race.
I'm a 14-year military spouse who has been through 4 deployments with my husband. He's running today right now, so I'm just very happy to be here. Anytime an organization is out here helping military families, I'm always here to support because they're here to help families like me.
Inclusion is everything. Feeling like we have a place where we belong, and when I say we, I'm first and foremost a mother of a child on the spectrum and not, and gym owner and now founder of carrying this to families who need it as well.
My son is extremely hyperactive. Getting him to calm down is a very difficult task. So the idea of Rock the Spectrum Gym, where he could just go and run and play and do all these fun things without any kind of worries and just go, go, go and bring down that energy, it helps us so much at home. You know, in the home or at school, it's not acceptable, but this is the one place it is acceptable for the child to kind of be themselves and get it all out there and just really just be themselves.
It's an amazing place where my son could go and be himself.
You get to meet other parents who are in the same journey as you are.
I think the most popular aspect of it is how they include all children of all types, not just only learning disabled, lower functioning, moderate functioning, high functioning, and non-disabled.
People there are so friendly. Everybody's like family. They always greet you with a smile. There's not one negative thing I could say about any of the employees. They're all absolutely amazing. So I think every parent should walk in through those doors and see what an amazing gym it is.
Now a diagnosis meaning 1 out of 6 kids are in some way or form affected with sensory processing disorder or autism. That's why We Rock Now is on the rise. People want to be a part of it. People know that they have a community there. They know that they can learn more information about things that they don't know themselves or that they can share, build friendships, and basically get what you get in an OT facility, but it's not $150 an hour. It's $12.
And we are back, and now we are joined by Jordan Hollow and Michelle C. Hollow, his mom. Jordan, as we said, is a 17-year-old comedian, and we're here to bust the myth that kids with autism aren't funny or people with autism aren't funny.
Well, and I also want to say what a wonderful creative family, because mom is also a very accomplished writer and has written about her son being a comedian, but also writes about other things. So we wanted to have both of them here with us today to talk about this. So welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you. Is it on TV?
You're on TV.
You're on TV. You're here.
And you look great. It's wonderful. So I don't know which one of you wants to tell us. Let's start with talking about this myth that people with autism aren't maybe funny. I can't even imagine. Does anybody think that?
I mean, I'm funny, but my mom is not at all.
My husband's very funny, and I guess Jordan got a lot of that from him.
Okay.
But what does Dad say that I do jokes?
You kill them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's great.
That's too funny.
So,
go ahead.
Tell us about your comedy career and how this started, Jordan and Michelle.
Well, this started in 2016, was it? And
I was getting a little disgusted because you were hanging around the house not doing much, and I said, take a class. So he picked stand-up comedy, and you've taken it now, how many times?
Like 3, I think.
3 times. And the teacher is wonderful. He is a professional stand-up comedian, and at the end of the, I guess it's like 6 or 8 weeks, they meet once a week at the adult school. We live in South Orange. South Orange, Maplewood in New Jersey has a bunch of different classes from language arts to sewing and comedy, acting, and he was interested in doing stand-up, which I give you a lot of credit for because that's kind of frightening, standing up in front of a crowd. But at the end of the class, after the few weeks that the class is on, the kids, the people in the class perform at a real comedy club. And you've done that now 3 times.
Yeah.
I love that. Jordan, were you interested in stand-up before you knew that there was a class, or was it just that it was a choice between that and sewing and you knew you didn't want to do sewing?
I don't want to do sewing.
That's definitely the funnier answer, I gotta say. Now, you have taken autism and the way people look at things with autism, and you've put that into your act. Can you give us an example of what that is?
Give him a joke.
Oh, yeah, okay.
An autism joke. He writes a lot of his own jokes. And go ahead. Okay, well, go.
I'll just tell a joke that I have here.
He likes doing a lot of play on words.
Okay. What do you call city meat?
I don't know. What do you call it?
but only.
I love that. I love that. How do you come up with these things, Jordan?
I just think and I just have this notebook and my brain does it right.
I love that.
What's it like doing stand-up in front of a big room full of people? Is that, do you get nervous at all, or do you feel comfortable in that position?
Like a few minutes, I'm like really nervous, but then like someone starts cheering and I go like right into it.
And the article that your mom wrote about the first time that you got up, I gotta say, I was reading it and I broke out in a sweat, Mom. Tell us what happened the first time you ever got up to do stand-up.
You want to do it?
Well, I was like really nervous, and I didn't really want to do it, but my teacher like started cheering for me, like cheering for the others to cheer too, and I just went into it.
Yeah, he first got up there and you froze for a few seconds. And a few seconds kind of seems like a long time. And my husband and I were in the audience and we kind of got nervous too. But his teacher got right up there and started chanting his name, and then everybody else in the comedy club, and it was packed, started chanting your name, and then you just went right into it. It was a very friendly crowd.
That's great.
It gives me goosebumps. I guess I want to know too, this class that you signed up for, this was just a class about stand-up comedy, right? It wasn't a class for doing stand-up comedy if you happen to be on the autism spectrum, or am I missing something?
You got it right. Actually, I called up ahead of time to find out because Jordan also, he's the in the program. When I pick him up, it's late. It's a little after 9, and he everybody's hanging out. They walk out together and they are all going to the bar, and Jordan's like, well, it's a school night. I'm going home. I'm going to bed.
Now, you say that this comedy has helped with Jordan's really development and him coming out of his shell. Talk about that.
Well, when Jordan was younger, we enrolled him in several social skills classes, and social skills works well for a lot of people. It didn't seem to work well for you because he got to do everything he wanted to do. There was no opposition in the social skills class. You got to play, you got to eat fun foods. And the teachers would always come up to me and say, he seems fine. Whereas stand-up, you're doing public speaking, you're coming up with jokes, so you have to be sharp and smart and pretty quick with it. So I just think it helps in so many different ways.
It sounds like it's the perfect fit. And it sounds like this teacher is somebody who's pretty amazing too.
He is. He really is a nice guy. And he was like, bring him. I said, is it okay if he signs up? I actually called the adult school and she put me in touch with the teacher. And he was very welcoming. You like Lee.
Yep.
And you're going to be his prize student, right? If not already.
Yeah.
What's No, I'm not going to be his sidekick because I kill Joe.
Yeah, jokes. She'll be
straight man.
She'll be the villain.
Oh, okay.
I think he's got it right though, Mom. I like how he says to you, set it up, and orders you to do that. That's kind of fun. What's the end game here? What do you think is going to happen with this?
Not even I know what's going to happen.
I don't think you want a career in it.
No.
No. It's a fun thing to do. Everybody has their.
It's my hobby, pretty much.
It's your hobby. Okay. Now, Jordan, you're in school?
Yes.
Tell us about your school.
Well, I see I'm only short. I'm within school right now.
Calais?
The Calais school.
Okay.
And it's a special needs school. It's like 12th grade, but they have this program called the 12th class program, and then you stay in like an extra few years.
Yeah.
like experience the actual world before you actually go out there.
There's going to be, they'll take them for job training, and also you get to go to college.
Yes.
Take some college classes.
So you'll
That's
stay in
great.
this program until you're 21?
Yes.
We're going to see how it goes each year.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then, are there any plans for when you're done with this program?
Just moving on to college full time.
Okay.
A few years just to get a job.
And do you have any idea what kind of a job you'd like?
Well, actually, yes, I do.
Okay.
That's okay.
Working at Trader Joe's.
Oh, working at Trader Joe's. Okay.
We love Trader Joe's.
Right. Well, that seems very doable. And you're going to get some training in how to do that at the school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
We've had a gentleman on the show before, Stephen Gaber, who he graduated from college with a degree in film, and he calls himself the autistic traveler. And he travels and he does a video travel log about the places that he goes. And Stephen's day job is that he works at Trader Joe's. So maybe sometime you and Stephen could chat about that, about what he likes about working at Trader Joe's. I'm just throwing it out there. We'll see. He's a little nonplussed. I get it. But I'm sure Stephen would enjoy talking to you about that, because he does that and he likes working at Trader Joe's.
Well, good luck with your comedy career, Jordan.
And Jordan, do you have a website or something that lets people know when you're going to be performing?
No.
No. Okay.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, we look forward to hearing, maybe you or your mom can send us an email and let us know when you're performing next.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think he has, you want to show them that, or?
Yes. Okay, this is one of 2 books that we wrote.
That you wrote?
Jordan Craft. And he co-wrote a book he wrote 2 joke books about Minecraft.
Oh, how great.
Which
Hilarious
is
jokes for
wonderful.
Minecrafters and jokes for Minecrafters.
I love that. Would you share just one? Look at you. You're doing so great. Would you share just one joke, maybe your favorite joke?
Yes.
From the books?
It's in this book.
Nancy and I know a little bit about Minecraft, but not too much. So make it one that we would understand.
Joke.
Oh, about what did the...
Wait, let me look for it.
Well, they don't have a lot of time.
It's just live.
What did the baby zombie say? Everyone?
I don't know, maybe.
I put you on the spot here. I should have given you forewarning that we were going to want a joke.
Let's see. It's a zombie joke.
Okay.
Why don't you just, the zombie joke. Why don't you just tell them?
I forgot it. That's why I'm looking for it.
I think
While you're looking, where can we get these books?
Barnes & Noble or online.
Okay,
great.
Amazon has them?
Yes.
Make a great gift. We
It
all
would.
know kiddos who
into
love
Minecraft.
Minecraft, and when you're going to a birthday party, fun thing to do is to get them a book of jokes about Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Any luck?
No, why don't I? Do you want me to tell them?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mom. Tell us one of the jokes.
Correct me, because I tend to kill jokes.
All right. Well,
what did the baby zombie say to his mom when he broke the vase?
I don't know what.
What did he say?
Oh, I'm so undead.
I'm so
undead.
I'm so undead. All right, very good.
I love that. Nice delivery too,
All right.
Jordan. You've got great comic timing. All right. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you for being on the show. Good luck to you with everything and with your comedy career and your career hopefully at Trader Joe's one day too, Jordan. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. That's very fun.
Very fun.
I love that. And definitely a great gift to give Minecraft jokes.
So many kids are into Minecraft.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think we're out of time.
We are totally out of time. But we are having a show tomorrow.
Tell us
We
about
haven't
the
had
show
a
tomorrow. I know
Thursday
you
show
haven't.
in like a month. So I'm really excited about this. One of the people that we're having on tomorrow is Kathy Beer, and she's an autism mom. I call it the MOM, the mom on a mission.
Right.
She took on the insurance companies and won,
Wow.
and won in a way that impacts all of us. So
Mhm.
she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she did, how she did, and how that impacts all of us. She really did us all a big favor. Then we also have Kimberly Kaplan on, that I've known Kimberly for years, and Kimberly made this wonderful short film called Autism and Cake, and it stars in it somebody that we're all very familiar with.
Who's that?
Ed Asner.
Oh, okay.
So that's a really fun thing. So she's going to be here with us and talk about that.
And what's the film about?
It's a lovely little short film that a different way of looking at autism.
Okay.
And that you kind of get to see a grandpa not really understanding and then getting it.
Okay.
So very well done by Ed Asner. And she wrote the script for that. So that's a
Okay.
very, you know people forever and
yeah.
then you don't know these things. I'm
Right.
like, wait, you did a film
Right.
about autism with
Right.
Ed Asner?
Right.
What are you talking about? So anyway, she's going to be here. Plus, one of the things that we're going to do tomorrow is I'm going to re-go over the 5 ways to make summer really fabulous and
Okay.
prevent summer
We all
slide.
need that.
So things to do with your kiddos. Plus, we'll have jargon of the day and all of that stuff all happening tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
Also want to say, I was so thrilled. I'm going to do a plug for myself here as we go. Nancy came to see the show that
Your
I'm doing, the
show, which
Autism
I
Monologues
gotta tell
last
you, you
Saturday.
were so spectacular.
Well, thank you. But we did win the Best of Broadwater, and so we have 3 more performances this weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we're trying to sell it out so that we send the message to Hollywood that autism sells at the
Yes.
box office. So it's a very, it's like the cost of a movie theater
Right,
ticket, and you
right.
can come in if you're in the Los Angeles area, see me do this show
And
live.
I got to tell
It's
you,
funny.
the superlatives are not enough superlatives.
It's funny though, right? Because
It's
people
very
think it's
funny.
going to be,
No,
a
it's-
Debbie
it-
Downer. It's
no, it
hilarious.
is
I'm going to
hilarious.
say that about, because I
It
laughed
is.
during it too. But anyway, so that's happening this weekend, and check out my Facebook if you want to find where you get tickets and so on and so forth.
Okay, I
We need
can't
butts in the
recommend
chairs.
Can't recommend it highly enough.
Well, it was so great to have you there. So in any case, I'll be back here tomorrow, but come and see me do the Autism Monologues this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at the Broadwater Theater in Los Angeles. All right, we're out of time, but thank you for being here
Thank
with
you
me.
for having me.
And thank you for Dr. Grampuchet being here and all of our fabulous guests. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from
And
me.
yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.